I have a great teacher. I also have some new friends from my football team. Also, tomorrow I am starting my job as well. When you want to have a good pronunciation, repeat after native speakers. On Thursday, I went to school again. We had a new student in our class. Her name is Elizabeth, and she is from Italy. At the beginning of the lesson, my teacher asked Elizabeth some questions. My teacher knows Elizabeth because Elizabeth visited her class 1 year ago. It was a class for beginners, and it was only for 2 weeks during summer holiday. When Elizabeth speaks, she speaks beautifully. Her pronunciation is very good, and she is fluent. My teacher was very happy, and she told Elizabeth, "Your school in Italy must be very good." Elizabeth says, "I don't go to any school. I learn English at home. I use techniques that I learn from you. I do a lot of reading, shadowing, and thinking aloud. I try to think more in English than in Italian. This is how I work on my English. The 2 weeks which I spent last summer at your class helped me a lot. You showed me the way. I know how to work on my English every day. This is why I wanted to join your class again, because 1 year ago I was beginner and now I can speak English. I want to learn from you again." My teacher was very happy when she heard these words. She appreciated Elizabeth for her hard work. It is all very interesting for me. I already know about reasoning. I also know the shadowing technique. But Elizabeth also speaks about thinking aloud. I don't know what it is. So I asked our teacher, "What is thinking aloud?" Our teacher replied, "It is a very effective technique. You have to have a strong motivation to learn English if you want to have benefits from this technique. It is also good to know that for some people this technique is a little crazy. But when you start to think aloud, your English can be better very fast." I said, "I have a strong motivation. I don't care if the technique is crazy. If it helps, I want to learn it. Can you teach us this technique?" Okay, it is actually a very simple. You think in your native language all day, every time. It is normal. Now you can start to think in English. And when you start to think in English, then you can think aloud. You simply say aloud what you think. It is all. I say, "It is very simple. Why is it very effective?" Our teacher says, "Maybe you can ask Elizabeth. She uses this technique. Maybe she can tell you more about this technique." Then our teacher asked Elizabeth if it is okay for her to speak about experience with thinking aloud. It is not a problem for Elizabeth. She said, "When I started with this technique, it wasn't easy. I started with very simple sentences. For example, I can speak English. It is good that I can speak English. I want to be better. I need to practice every day. I don't know many words, but I can use these words. I can say my ideas with these words. I can do this. This is great." The sentences were really simple. But at the beginning, there was one problem. My thinking in Italian was long and complicated. I was not able to say in English exactly, but I said in Italian. I needed to find a simpler form for English. To think in simple English was the hardest part, but after some time it was normal for me to think in English. Then something interesting happened. I met a man from Australia. He was on holiday in Italy. I was still a beginner, but we started to speak English. I could see that. I was able to speak with him without having problems. My sentences were simple and short, but I was able to speak. I didn't translate in my head from Italian to English. After the meeting with the man from Australia, I started to use thinking aloud more. This technique helped me a lot with my speaking. I still use it every day. It is really a very effective technique. Our teacher thanked Elizabeth for her experience with thinking aloud. I wanted to use this technique because I also wanted to get better at speaking. When you want to speak English fluently, think aloud. Advice. When you want to learn English, read, listen, think, and speak. Do each activity for 30 minutes every day.